Good morning, everybody. Today, I would like to deliver phytotherapy lecture, and the title today is Phytotherapy of Diabetes mellitus. I recommend two books for this lecture. First is the book from Appian Subramoniam with the title Anti-Diabetes Mellitus Plants, Active Principles, Mechanism of Action, and Sustainable Utilization. And the second book is the book from Benzi and Wechtel-Galor with title Herbal Medicine, Biomolecular and Clinical Aspects. Using these two books, you can find several plants that have been evaluated in the clinical trial for anti-diabetes. So it will make us confident by using the plant that have been evaluated in the clinical trial. Of course, there are many other plants that have been evaluated for anti-diabetes, but not many plants that reach to the clinical trial. So for this lecture, for the phytotherapy, we use the plant that have been evaluated in the clinical trial. So you can read this book because they present several interesting plants that can also be found in Indonesia. And this book also explain the mechanism of action of the active compound in the active plant. First of all, I would like to introduce or remind you the definition of diabetes. So diabetes is the abnormal condition that is characterized by hyperglycemia. And actually, diabetes is abnormal metabolism of carbohydrate, lipid, and protein. And this disease is strongly associated with other organ dysfunction such as heart, kidney, vascular, and nerve dysfunction. And what is the lead cause of anti-diabetes? There are several lead causes such as defective or deficient in insulin secretion and the reduction in insulin effectiveness, or it's usually called insulin resistant. So the first is because the insulin secretion is not normal or in the subnormal production. And the second is because there is insulin resistance, meaning that even when insulin is produced, the body or the glucose blood level in the body is not decreased because there is a resistance. And the condition of diabetes can be characterized by fasting plasma glucose or FPG higher than 7 millimole per liter, or usually people also use milligram per deciliter, which is 126 milligram per deciliter. And the diabetes can also be characterized by testing a random plasma glucose concentration, which is more than 11.1 millimole per liter or 200 milligram per deciliter. When one of these conditions is met, so we can conclude that the person have diabetes. Another important parameter or indicator is also HbA1c which is normally more than 6.5%. This is the more accurate indicator because most of the clinician, doctor, or health in the health service area, they use HbA1c for parameter of diabetes, especially long-term diabetes, which is more than 6.5%. And there are several types of diabetes mellitus, but in this lecture, I would like to focus on type 2 diabetes because this is the most common disease, and this type 2 diabetes is proved to be effective to be treated with even with drug or also with the herbal medicine. And the first type of diabetes is, of course, type 1 diabetes. And this type of diabetes is caused by complete destruction of beta cell by autoimmune or by unknown immunological mechanism. So meaning that the beta cell in the pancreas is completely dysfunction, meaning that the cell or the beta cell cannot produce insulin. When the beta cell cannot produce insulin, there will be no insulin in the body. So the patient needs additional insulin from outside the body by injection of insulin to treat type 1 diabetes. Yeah. And this only account for 10 to 20% diabetes patient that suffer from type 1 diabetes mellitus. So this is the less common compared to the type 2 diabetes, because the type 2 diabetes is around 90% of the total case of diabetes mellitus. The lifetime risk is also lower for type 1 diabetes, which is only 0.5. And for type 2 diabetes is higher, it's around 5.5 up to 7% lifetime risk. And the second type of diabetes, which is type 2 diabetes, can be caused by insulin resistance and also by insulin secretion defect, meaning that the beta cell of the pancreas is still in the cell is still exists and they produce insulin, but the production of insulin is not sufficient, yeah, because there is a defect in the process of production insulin by beta cell. And another cause of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance, meaning that the insulin is produced normally in the higher level, but the organ target, such as the heart, they do not respond to the insulin, meaning there is a resistance. Even the insulin is normally produced, but the glucose level in the body is not decreased. And there is another uncommon diabetes mellitus, such as diabetes that caused by gestation or by drug or by infection. But this is not a common type of diabetes mellitus. So in summary, the two most common diabetes mellitus is type 1 and type 2. Of course, type 2 is more common compared to the type 1. The type 1 is caused by infection, toxic chemical, genetic predisposition, and idiopathic. Yeah, that all of these can kill or can degrade or can disrupt or can make the beta cell dead. So the cell, the pancreas, cannot produce the insulin. Why? Because the cell, the beta cell are dead. And another important feature of type 2 diabetes mellitus in on the other side, it can be caused by obesity, which is the most common in our modern life today, and also can caused by mental stress or by diet, such as high fat diet, lack of exercise, or too much glucose-based food consumption. Type 2 diabetes mellitus can also caused by genetic predisposition, such as the defect in the gene that involve in the insulin activity or insulin signal transduction, or by sedentary or inactive life. Yeah. So in this lecture, I would like to focus on the type 2 diabetes mellitus because today the most effective way to treat type 1 diabetes is by injection of insulin. And the type 2 diabetes is the good target for herbal medicine and also synthetic drug. And most of the type 2 diabetes patients are elderly or more than 40 years old. And among these patients, 80% of them are obese people. Yeah. As I said before, type 2 diabetes can be caused by insulin resistance or lack of insulin secretion. Insulin resistant meaning that the insulin production is still normal, but the glucose uptake decrease. Even the insulin is produced, but glucose uptake is still in the low position. You know, the insulin production cannot increase the glucose uptake. And the glucose secretion from the liver, or it's called gluconeogenesis process, is increased. Yeah. Even the insulin in the normal condition, when the insulin is produced, gluconeogenesis or the formation or the production of glucose from the liver is normally decreased. But when the condition is in insulin resistant, meaning when the insulin is produced, there is no effect, meaning that the gluconeogenesis is still high. And the second type or second cause of type 2 diabetes is the lack of insulin secretion from beta cell of the pancreas, meaning the beta cell is in a good condition, but they cannot produce the sufficient amount of insulin. First, we would like to discuss what is the insulin resistance and what is the cause and what factor can affect the insulin resistance. The insulin resistance occurs in several tissues in the body, in the muscle, liver, and adipocyte. When it occurs in adipose tissue, yeah, it causes the glucose uptake is low. So even when the insulin is produced, the glucose uptake in the adipose tissue is still lower in the lower level. So the insulin production cannot increase the glucose uptake process in the adipose tissue. and in the second in the liver. When there is insulin resistance, even when insulin is produced, the hepatic glucose production is still high, meaning that the glucose level in the blood is still high. In the normal condition, when the insulin is produced, the hepatic glucose production is low. And the third is in the muscle. So when in the insulin resistant occurred in the muscle, the glucose utilization by the muscle cell is low. Even when insulin is produced in the high level, muscle cell did not respond. Muscle cell did not use muscle cell. They don't use glucose for metabolism. Normally, in the normal condition, when insulin is produced, muscle cells are active and they use glucose for metabolism and to also to generate energy. Insulin resistance can be characterized by the condition in which the insulin is high or hyperinsulinemia and hyperglycemia. So the glucose level is high and insulin also high. This is one of the indicator of insulin resistance. In the normal condition, when the insulin is high, the glucose is low because insulin acts by decreasing the glucose level in the blood. And there are also several factors that involve in the progression of insulin resistance, such as lipid and pro-inflammatory cytokine, such as TNF-alpha. So what does it mean? It means that it is logic that obesity is associated with diabetes because the lipid have a crucial role in the condition of insulin resistance. These are the pathways and also several proteins that play a crucial role in the progression of diabetes mellitus. Of course, this is a complicated pathway, but I would like to focus on the red arrow here. The red first one here in the upper red arrow is pointing to the insulin receptor, meaning that the presence of insulin receptor in the cell is very important. So when insulin is coming, the insulin binds to insulin receptor, and the receptor will deliver the message to the inner signal and to the downstream signal to reduce or to decrease the blood glucose level. There are many activity, many process after the binding of insulin to the receptor, such as the importance of insulin receptor substrate in this mechanism. And there are also several kinase process or phosphorylation process. And there are also several proteins that play important role in the glucose transport, such as GLUT4 or glucose transporter protein. Glucose transporter or GLUT4, it is important because they will carry the glucose in the process of glucose uptake. So the more GLUT4 present in the cell, the more glucose uptake occurred, and the glucose level in the blood is decreased. There is also another protein, PI3, yeah, phosphatidylinositol, which is also important in the insulin signaling pathway. So if we have a medicinal plant or natural compound that can affect this protein, for example, that can induce the expression of GLUT4 in the cells, meaning that the compound has potential to be developed as anti-diabetes. And also some other protein that can, the other compound that, for example, to make the phosphorylation process here become better, meaning that the compound is good for anti-diabetes. As I said before, there is a associate connection between obesity, diabetes, and also another disease, which is now usually it's commonly said by metabolic syndrome. What is metabolic syndrome? It is a very complex syndrome, yeah, comprising obesity, diabetes, yeah, and also cardiovascular diseases such as atherosclerosis. So in the modern day, there is a correlation. Is around 80% of the diabetes patients are obesity, meaning that it is very strong connection between obesity and diabetes. This is because the obesity reduce the phosphorylation of protein involved in the insulin signaling via insulin receptor substrate and PI3 kinase. So here, obesity inhibit the signal here in the insulin receptor substrate and also in the PI3 phosphatidylinositol pathway. Fatty acid, triglyceride, leptin, resistin, adiponectin, TNF alpha that are produced by adipocyte. Adipocyte is fat cells. They impair insulin signaling. So beware of this type of fatty acid, triglyceride, leptin, resistin, adiponectin, and TNF alpha. Meaning that if we have herbal medicine or natural compound, natural product that can reduce the level of triglyceride, fatty acid, leptin, resistin, adiponectin, and TNF alpha, the herb or the compound could be potential for anti-diabetes mellitus type 2. Next, I would like to introduce you to several hormones that important for the glucose metabolism. Before I discuss one by one several Indonesian herbal medicine that is potential to be used as anti-diabetes. The first hormone in the glucose metabolism is insulin. Interestingly, insulin is the only hormone to reduce blood glucose. The only hormone to reduce blood glucose. So this is very important hormone. If you have herbal medicine or natural compound that can enhance or increase the production of insulin, So could be potential as anti-diabetes, because there is insulin is the only hormone to reduce blood glucose. And what is the organ target of insulin? First is liver, and then second is muscle, and the third is adipocyte cell or adipose cells. So when insulin is produced, liver, muscle, and adipose cell, they will work together to reduce the blood glucose level, because these three organs are the target of insulin. And the insulin in the body, the insulin bind to insulin receptor to exert, to produce the anti-diabetic activity or to reduce the blood glucose level. What is the function of insulin? There are three functions of insulin. First is for carbohydrate metabolism, second is for protein metabolism, and the third is for lipid metabolism. And the first is the most important function of insulin regarding the anti-diabetic treatment, because insulin is very important to reduce the glucose level in the blood, because insulin is the only hormone to reduce the blood glucose level. Insulin can increase glucose uptake. Glucose uptake meaning the uptake or the utilization of glucose by the organ such as liver, muscle, and adipocyte, so that the glucose level in the blood is decreased because the glucose is used by those organs. Insulin also eliminate oxidative glucose and also increase glycogen synthesis in the liver. When the glucose is eliminated, of course, the blood glucose level is reduced. And also when the glycogen synthesis in the liver is increased, the glucose level in the blood is also decreased. So there is a balance between the glucose level in the blood and the glucose level in the liver. Yeah. When the glucose synthetic in the liver is increased, the glucose level in the blood is decreased. And these three actions of insulin can cause the decrease of blood glucose level. The second function of insulin, of course, is in protein metabolism. So insulin take part in the synthesis of protein from glucose. Yeah. So when the synthesis of protein from glucose is increased, the glucose in the blood is decreased. And third, for lipid metabolism. So insulin also play an important role in the synthetic of lipid from glucose. So when the synthesis of lipid from glucose is increased, so the glucose level in the blood is decreased. Insulin also have an important role in the absorption of free fatty acid in adipose tissue and in the liver, or its storage as triglyceride. When the storage of glucose as a triglyceride in the liver is increased, so the level of glucose in the blood is decreased. So the first is insulin, and then the second hormone is glucagon. Glucagon has opposite action with insulin. So the action of insulin and glucagon are in the opposite direction. If the insulin reduce the blood glucose level, so glucagon increase the blood glucose level. Glucagon in the body is produced by alpha cell of the pancreas. As I said before, insulin is produced by beta cell of the pancreas. There is another cell called alpha cell of the pancreas that produce glucagon. Yeah, not only produced by alpha cell of the pancreas, but glucagon also produced by intestinal tract. Also, it only in the small amount of glucagon. So there is a opposite function between insulin and glucagon. Interestingly, glucagon is only secreted when the blood glucose level is low, and glucagon is only has limited half-life, yeah, only few minutes. So it is not stable, and the duration of action is not so long. It's only for only several or few minutes, and only when the blood glucose level is low, and then glucagon work by increase the blood glucose level in the blood. So this is a body natural mechanism to maintain the blood glucose level in the body is in the stable condition. Not too low, not too high. When it's low, the glucagon is produced to increase the blood glucose level in the body. But when the glucose is too high, it reduced by insulin. Glucagon also stimulates the breakdown of glycogen into glucose, or the process called glycogenolysis. Yeah, glucogenolysis. So there are a couple of words that might confuse you. So please take a note, or you can Google this word to make you understand what is glucogenolysis, what is gluconeogenesis, and what is glycogenesis. So glycogenolysis, lysis, yeah, mean it's gone. Yeah. So glycon is lysis. Become what? Become glucose. So glycogenolysis is the formation of glucose from glycogen. Glycogen is lysis, become glucose. And the second, gluconeogenesis. Glucagon also has a role in the process of gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis? Gluconeogenesis is a generation of glucose from non-carbohydrate substrate. Remember, genesis is the formation, yeah, generation, genesis. Gluconeogenesis, meaning the formation of glucose. From what source? From non-carbohydrate source. So gluconeogenesis is the generation of glucose from non-carbohydrate substrate. And the last function of glucagon is in the process of glycogenesis. Glycogenesis is the synthesis of glycogen. Remember, genesis is the formation, the production, glycogen. So the production or synthesis of glycogen from glucose. And the third hormone that is very important in the glucose metabolism is GLP-1. Yeah. GLP-1 is released from L cell in the small intestine. It's not from the pancreas, but It is from small intestine. GLP-1 stimulates insulin secretion only when the blood glucose is above the fasting level. So the GLP-1, this hormone only works when the blood glucose is above the fasting level. GLP-1 also improve beta cell differentiation, mitogenesis, survival, and also insulin secretion, meaning that GLP-1 is very important for human or for living organism, because this hormone can improve beta cell and also stimulate the differentiation, mitogen, and survival of beta cell. As I said before, beta cell is very important because beta cell produce insulin. So the presence of GLP is very important for the production of insulin, because GLP-1 induce beta cell differentiation, mitogenesis, and survival of the beta cell. So GLP-1 is very related with insulin, because insulin is produced by beta cell. GLP-1 potentiates glucose-stimulated insulin release and insulin signaling. Yes, it's because the GLP-1 has something to do with beta cell, and the insulin itself is produced by beta cell. So it's very, very, very important for the production of insulin. There are many publications and also many studies that focus on the anti-diabetic activity of several medicinal plants, including Indonesian herbal medicine for anti-diabetes. And some mechanism have been characterized. For example, activation of PPAR gamma, peroxisome proliferator activated receptor, and by increasing GLP-1 level, as I said before, GLP-1 is important for the production of insulin, or by stimulation of insulin secretion, or by regeneration of beta cell. Insulin and beta cell are very important for maintaining the blood glucose level. And also by sensitization of insulin action by the receptor, or by the kinase, or by the protein involved in the signaling pathways. There are many targets in the insulin signaling pathway. Some compound from herbal medicine also has a similar structure with insulin. So they act like insulin. So it's called insulin-like action. Why? Because they have structure similarity with the insulin. So this compound can bind to the insulin receptor and induce the insulin signaling pathway. Also, it's not as strong as insulin itself. The mechanism of action also can be done by activation of AMPK and also by inhibition of glucose reabsorption in the kidney, because the kidney is very important in the process of excretion and also reabsorption. When the glucose is reabsorbed in the kidney, meaning the glucose will re-enter to the blood circulation, it will lead the increasing of the blood glucose level. The other mechanism is by inhibition of glucose absorption from the intestine. So not only in the kidney, but also in the intestine. And also inhibition of carbohydrate digestion in the intestine. If the carbohydrate digestion is inhibited or delayed, mean the blood glucose concentration is reduced. Yeah. And this is very important for prevention of the diabetes mellitus. Because of time limitation, I could not explain in detail one by one mechanism of action, and I believe that the previous lecture, for example, in the pharmacology and also in the phytotherapy, you might get this explanation. So please refer again to your previous course and open your book and your lecture material to get better understanding one by one of this mechanism of action. I would like to continue to the next slide is about the plant itself. What is the good way of treating diabetes by utilizing herbal medicine? Are there any Indonesian herbal medicine that have been evaluated in the clinical trial for treating diabetes? So those questions we will answer in the next slide. Of course, there are many plants that have been evaluated, but only several plants that can be found in Indonesia, and one of them is aloe vera, or it's normally used for hair treatment. Yeah, lidah buaya, you know, yeah, aloe vera, lidah buaya, and some people use it for cosmetic, for the skin treatment. Some also use it for defecation. Yeah, this plant is not originally is not from Indonesia. It is from another country. It's some source said is from Africa because it's look like a cactus. Yeah, but it is not Indonesian origin. But today we can find it, yeah, in many almost in all of Indonesian region, in the higher landslide, or in the mountain, or also in the lower land. We can find this lidah buaya or aloe vera. And some people use it here in Indonesia for traditional treatment. For example, it can it's used for wound healing, yeah, for hair loss, yeah, keramas, yeah, for the shampoo, yeah, for hemorrhoid, for skin protectant, constipation, colic, skin diseases, worm infestation, and diabetes, hypertension, and also for infection. There are many traditional use of aloe vera or lidah buaya. And it's known that aloe vera contain vitamins, minerals, saccharide, amino acids, enzyme, and this is what we would like to discuss deeper is the secondary metabolites in the aloe vera. It contains anthracinones, lignin, saponin, and salicylic acids. Yeah. Another important compound is glucomannan. Glucomannan is water-soluble fiber. Yeah, water-soluble fiber. Another type of fiber is acemannan. If glucomannan is water-soluble, acemannan is not soluble in water because this is the acetylated form of fiber. Yeah, acemannan, glucomannan, acemannan. Both can decrease the glucose level and induce insulin sensitivity. So the active compound in the aloe vera for diabetes or to reduce the blood glucose level is glucomannan and acemannan. Is that it? No, there is another compound that this is the most abundant compound in the aloe vera or in lidah buaya that has anti-diabetic property. And this is the picture or the photo of aloe vera. I'm sure you very familiar with this plant. What I point here is the presence of acemannan and also another type of compound, anthraquinone. Yeah. In the middle of the leaf, yeah, of lidah buaya. So when you cut the leaf of lidah buaya of the aloe vera, in the middle here, this is the parenchyma. Yeah, this is the parenchyma. Yeah. It contains abundant acemannan and glucomannan here. Yeah, in the middle. Yeah. Interestingly, in the outside, yeah, or beneath of the ring, this is the ring, and this is the beneath of the ring. Yeah, this region rich in anthraquinone. So if you would like to get the acemannan, glucomannan, take the middle part of the lidah buaya here. Yeah. However, if you decide the anthraquinone compound, yeah, the anthraquinone is abundant in beneath the ring, yeah, here, yeah. So you can scrap it, dikerok, yeah, scrap here, yeah, here. Beneath of the ring is rich of anthraquinone, and in the parenchyma, in the middle, yeah, gel, rich of acemannan, yeah. So when we consume the gel of lidah buaya, actually we consume glucomannan and acemannan. Yeah, of course there is also anthraquinone because the latex or getah, yeah, latex getah is contain anthraquinone. So you consume both acemannan and also anthraquinone. And the anthraquinone in the aloe vera is here, barbaloin, yeah, and also isobarbaloin. It tastes bitter, and this compound have cathartic effect. So aloe vera or lidah buaya is also well known for its cathartic effect, yeah, pencahar. And the compound responsible for the cathartic effect is mainly the anthraquinone, barbaloin, and isobarbaloin. Yeah. So if you take lidah buaya for anti-diabetes, it is recommended you take the parenchyma. But when you want to get the cathartic effect, you take the beneath of the ring. Yeah. or the latex. Yeah, just cut the leaf of lidah buaya. You can just hang it and then let the latex drop, and then you just put a glass, and above the glass you hang the lidah buaya and let the latex drop to the glass. Yeah, so you will collect the latex, and this latex contain a high amount of anthraquinone, which is good for cathartic effect. And of course, there are any other compound in the lidah buaya. Yeah, and generally it's divided three class of compound. First, anthraquinone, including that I just mentioned, the barbaloin, isobarbaloin, aloemodin, aloitic acid, antranol, aloin A, aloin B, or together collectively known as barbaloin, and also cinnamic acid. Carbohydrate, as I mentioned before, asemanan, glucomanan, galactomanan, galactan, galacturan, arabinogalactan, silan, cellulose, pectide. Yeah. They are carbohydrates. And another compound such as chromones. Yeah. Well, for the cathartic effect is the anthraquinone part. It's very, very strong cathartic effect. Of course, they also have anti-diabetic activity, because some publication also mention anthraquinone in the aloe vera, which is emodin. It has activity to increase insulin sensitivity, but of course the main effect is still cathartic. And the main anti-diabetic activity is the glucomanan and asemanan. It reduces glucose level and also increase insulin sensitivity and sensitivity. Interestingly, this carbohydrate also has another effect for immunostimulant and also wound healing. And these are the structure of the active compound. This is asemanan, this is manan, glucomanan, this is acylated form, acetylated. And these are anthraquinone, yeah, aloemodin, and aloin or barbaloin. Based on another publication, there are still another active compound in the aloe vera for diabetes mellitus. These are basically phytosterol, yeah, phytosterol derivative, namely lopinol and cycloartanol, and they have similar structure, and they have been published to be able to decrease fasting blood glucose level and also reducing the blood in mice. Traditionally, the consumption of lidah buaya or aloe vera, it can reduce the blood glucose level either by form of juice or by the fresh leaf by using a spoon full of the gel of lidah buaya. The safety aspect of aloe vera, because it's traditionally used by many people, so it is relatively safe. But we have to be aware that aloe vera with the cathartic effect can cause dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, because when we consume aloe vera for cathartic, meaning that all of the things that in our stomach will be delivered out of our body through the feces. So we have to be careful the risk of dehydration and electronic imbalance. Aloe vera has been evaluated in clinical trial. So please bear in mind that when we consume aloe vera for the treatment of diabetes, is 1 to 3 days is not enough. So we need a longer period of time to decrease the glucose level in our body. So based on the clinical trial, no clinical trial is short. At least it need week or even month for the treatment of diabetes. And the dose is relatively low. For example, here is only 1/2 of teaspoon daily for 4 to 14 weeks. Only 1/2 is from the fresh material. Interestingly, it is no weight gain, meaning this is good for obese people, because normally many anti-diabetes drug, synthetic anti-diabetic drug, cause the side effect weight gain. By using this lidah buaya, no change in body weight. It is been good for obese people. And aloe vera juice, 1 tablespoon twice a day for at least 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. It can reduce blood glucose and triglyceride. This is also based on clinical trial, and we can conclude that this is effective for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. There are several products available in the market in Indonesia. For example, here is the fresh gel from the leaf of lidah buaya. It's ready to use, ready to consume. And there are also capsule from the extract, and also caplet also from the extract. And there is also interesting drink, herbal drink. It contains also lidah buaya or aloe vera, and also supplement product from outside of Indonesia. Please be careful when you consume any of herbal medicine or drug or supplement for diabetes. Please keep in mind that the product should be sugar-free. Even when it in the form of herbal drink, it should be sugar-free, because the sugar in the addition of sugar in the this dosage form, it will increase the blood glucose level in the body. And the second plant that have been evaluated in the clinical trial for anti-diabetes is cinnamon. There are many. There are several type of several source of cinnamon. First, from Cinnamon verum, from Cinnamon zeylanicum, or Cinnamon cassia. The most common in Indonesia is Cinnamon verum and Cinnamon zeylanicum. Cinnamon verum, Cinnamon zeylanicum, Cinnamon cassia. The Cinnamon cassia is commonly found in Europe and also in America, because they use it during the winter season to get their body warm. And this pungent spice, the cinnamon is pungent spice from inner part of the branch of cinnamon tree. So it's part of the tree. Yeah. And there are many available in many countries. Yeah. And commonly used in cooking and baking. And the daily dose of cinnamon for cinnamon cassia, yeah, is 1 to 6 gram of the ground powder of cinnamon for 40 days. It is good for decreasing fasting glucose, triglyceride, LDL cholesterol, and total cholesterol level in the body. And this is relatively safe. However, cinnamon, especially cinnamon cassia, contain high amount of coumarin, and coumarin can cause liver damage. So we have to be careful. We have to take as low as possible, not too much. It is also recommended that we use Cinnamomum verum and also Cinnamomum zeylanicum because these two plants do not contain or coumarin. Yeah. So only Cinnamomum cassia that have been reported to contain high amount of coumarin, but not in Cinnamomum verum and Cinnamomum zeylanicum. And there are many compounds in cinnamon, of course, but the most interesting compound for type for the treatment of diabetes is cinnamtannin B1, cinnamaldehyde, and methyl hydroxysulfone polymer. In the right side of my slide, you can see clearly the various compound structure. Cinnamtannin is very complicated because it is a tannin. Yeah. So it is very complicated structure. It's really difficult to synthesize. So the effective way to get this compound is by directly isolated from the plant source. Cinnamtannin can reduce glucose absorption and can stimulate the cellular glucose uptake and also stimulate the glucose metabolism and glycogen synthesis. It can also inhibit gluconeogenesis and also stimulate insulin release and potentiate insulin signaling. When this mechanism targeted by cinnamtannin B1, the glucose level in the blood is decreased. Another compound that is very common and in abundant amount in the cinnamon is cinnamaldehyde. It is known that cinnamaldehyde can decrease mRNA expression of TNF-alpha. As I mentioned before in the previous slide, TNF-alpha contributes to the development of insulin resistance. So, if cinnamaldehyde can decrease the expression of TNF-alpha in the adipose tissue, it means that cinnamaldehyde can inhibit the insulin resistance. And the third compound is methyl hydroxychalcone polymer. This is methyl hydroxychalcone. When they are present in the body, they act as insulin mimetic, meaning they can bind on the insulin receptor and can induce the insulin signaling pathway. And this is the visualization on the photos of cinnamon. And this is the bark of cinnamon, and this is the typical leaf of cinnamon, in which the young leaf is normally red color, and this is the tree of cinnamon. From the clinical trial of cinnamon, the dose range between 1 until 6 gram for the cinnamon powder or bark. When we use extract, the dose is lower. It's a range between 120 until 500 milligram for the extract. And there are many clinical trials using cinnamon, and many of them show a good result by decreasing the blood glucose level. If you see here, the duration is not short, yeah, it is big, yeah, between 5 weeks until 16 weeks. So it is good for routine consumption, not the instant effect. If you expect the instant effect by the dramatic decrease of the blood glucose level, maybe you better take synthetic one, because today you consume, in a couple of hours you can expect that your blood glucose level will dramatically decrease. But by using this herbal medicine, it is rather slow effect to maintain the blood glucose level in the normal level. So it's better, or it is recommended, by taking it in the long period and routine consumption. The third herb for diabetes is bitter melon or pare in Indonesia. The Latin name is Momordica carantia. This is very popular plant that is used for diabetes mellitus. Some people associate the taste of bitter melon, which is very bitter, with the ability to decrease the blood glucose level. You know that glucose is sweet and bitter melon is bitter. So how to fight sweet is by bitter. So it's a kind of a traditional approach for this plant. It grows very good in Indonesia, in many regions, and also many people in Indonesia use it for vegetable, for sayur, yeah, vegetable. The active compound as anti-diabetic, there are many compounds. There are many active compounds in the bitter melon. First is the carantin-physin and also polypeptide P, momordicolide, momordicopolinide A. Yeah. And the most interesting compound is polypeptide P. This is not a usual compound because this is polypeptide. Yeah, the big structure compound, not the small one, such as, for example, we know flavonoid. It is contain C6, C6, 3C, and then 6, 3C, 6, 3, 6. Yeah. The left side is 6C, the middle side is 3C, and the right side is 6C. Yeah. So it's commonly around more than around 15 compounds. Yeah. So the polypeptide is big structure, and they act like insulin. So it's bind to the insulin receptor because insulin itself is big, and then the compound polypeptide P is also a big structure of compound. They can bind to the insulin receptor and then deliver the message such as the effect caused by insulin. Another compound are oleanolic acid glycosides. This glycoside can prevent sugar from being absorbed in the intestine. So it's prevent the absorption, oleanolic glycoside. And momorticoside, it stimulates GLUT4. As I mentioned before, GLUT4 is a glucose transporter protein that is important for the glucose transporter. The more you have GLUT4 protein, the more effective the glucose transfer is. And also momorticoside increase the activity of AMPK, which is a kinase that is important in the insulin signaling pathway. Bitter melon also contain lectin. It reduces blood glucose concentration by acting on the peripheral tissue, yeah, and also by suppressing appetite. Yeah, so there are many mechanisms that have been described for the anti-diabetic activity of bitter melon. So we take the whole extract or the fresh plant material. Of course, many of this compound here we listed here going through to our body. They act by synergically by their own mechanism to reduce the blood glucose level. And these are the structure of the interesting compound momorticoside A, B, C, D, and E. They have a similar structure. They only differentiate by the OR structure here in the left side of the structure. It's on the they have different substitute group substitute, yeah, functional group. The functional group in the side chain is different, yeah, but the basic ring or basic structure is the same. And this is also compound called momordisin and karantoside, and also visin with different type of structure. I'm sure that you are also familiar with the tree or also with the fruit of pare, yeah, Momordia. This is the fruit of bitter melon or pare, yeah. So we consume the fruit, yeah. Normally people just slice it and make a vegetable. And of course, if you consume the whole part of this fruit, you get many of the compound I mentioned before. And this is the typical flower of the bitter melon, and this is the hanging fruit. And you can see here the tree is over the roof. Now there are also many clinical studies regarding the anti-diabetic activity of bitter melon. As you see here, the time for the treatment, the duration of the treatment by using bitter melon is also not so short. It's 4 weeks in the clinical trial with the dose of 2 grams of bitter melon per day, and it can significantly reduce the blood glucose level. And if we take the extract, it requires around 300 to 600 milligrams of extract daily, yeah, to get the anti-diabetes effect. As mentioned before, the very interesting compound in the bitter melon is polypeptide P. This is a peptide with the big structure, and this peptide can bind to insulin receptor. So the action is called insulin mimetic. This peptide can reduce blood glucose level with the peak between 4 until 8 hours. Yeah. However, there are also some there are also a publication that mentioned that the clinic also there are many clinical study of bitter melon. More clinical trial and also better design clinical trial are required to confirm the activity, because the activity so far is not so robust as the previous plan that I mentioned before. So some researcher found that this is very active, some only weak effect, some are not significant compared to control. So it is recommended to perform additional clinical trial with the better design, with the more subject of the study. And the important thing that I would like to mention here, that is the bitter melon. It's known traditionally to have effect for fertility. Yeah. So there's also several studies mention that bitter melon extract affects fertility in male and female. Of course, the experiment were done in animal. For example, here for male anti-fertility effect, they observe in rat and also in dogs, mice, and also guinea pigs with high dose and long duration of consumption. Yeah. So it is very recommended for utilization of bitter melon in the treatment of diabetes. It is better for people that already have children, or they probably elderly, or or for those who do not priority in the fertility effect, because it is published that some of the animal that are exposed to the extract, they have infertility problem. However, we still today there are still many people that consume bitter melon daily, or not daily but very often in their life as a sayur, as a vegetable, and they probably they do not experience the fertility problem, because they only consume couple of slices, not so high, because when it's in the form of extract is require high amount of plant material, so it's different dose. So probably it's still safe if we only consume daily with the lower amount of plant material. There are also caution, because some report mentioned that the extract in higher dose also can cause abortion, and also toxic when it's given intravenous or intraperitoneal. Yeah, because this plant is traditionally used by traditional people for decades, so it's categorized, it's still a safe plant material and can be used for medication. And we can find several form of bitter melon based product for anti-diabetes, but here you can see that the claim is not so strong, so it's not for treating diabetes, but it's to relieve, to relieve the symptom of diabetes. ya, meringankan. This is also relieving diabetic symptom. Yeah. And here is also a product as a capsule. When you see here, capsule is normally in extract form, yeah, extract form, because in Indonesia we only allowed to make a capsule dosage form if the material is extract. So it's not allowed to dry to fill the capsule with plant material, raw plant material. It should be a extract or fraction. And the last plant that I would like to present here as anti-diabetic is fenugreek or Trigonella venum-crescens. It is not Indonesian origin, of course. It's still difficult to find this plant in Indonesia, but it's worth to mention here because this plant is widely investigated as anti-diabetes, and we can find it here not by plantation, but we can get it here by purchasing in the market, traditional market, in the drugstore, traditional herbal store, and also via online store. It is fenugreek or Trigonella venum-crescens, the seed of fenugreek. The plant is native to southern Europe, northern Africa, and western Asia, and it is common use in Indonesia, in India as a spice, and also for the traditional Indian herbal medicine, Ayurveda, as laxative and also demulcent. The active compound in fenugreek is trigonelline. It decreases the intestinal alpha amylase, maltase, and lipase, and also protect beta cell of pancreas. As I mentioned before, that this enzyme is very important in the absorption of glucose. If the compound on the plant on the extract or any anti-diabetics agent can inhibit this enzyme, so they will inhibit and they will decrease the blood glucose level. Another compound is 4-hydroxyisoleucine. This compound can stimulate the secretion of insulin, activate PI3 kinase, and reduce weight in hamsters. So this is again also another plant that is good for the person with anti-diabetes that do not want to get weight gain, because this drug, this extract, this compound 4-hydroxyisoleucine, fenugreek that contain 4-hydroxyisoleucine can stimulate the insulin secretion, activate PI3 kinase, and reduce the blood glucose without weight gain. Even the weight gain is reduced. Another compound is galactomannan. Galactomannan decrease postprandial hyperglycemia in human. So this is already evaluated in human for galactomannan. This is the plant of fenugreek. It's and this is the seed that is used for anti-diabetes. So the part of plant that is used for anti-diabetes is the seed. And this is the compound galactomannan that have been evaluated in the clinical trial for anti-diabetes. And this is 4-hydroxyisoleucine and also trigonelline that are active as anti-diabetes. And trigonelline is the major alkaloid in the fenugreek. There are also several clinical studies investigating the effect of fenugreek in diabetic patients. So the administration of 15 gram of ground fenugreek seeds, so it's the raw plant material, yeah, of the seed of fenugreek, it reduced the postprandial glucose. 1 gram per day of hydroalcoholic extract or ethanolic extract of fenugreek for 2 months, it increased the insulin sensitivity and also HDL level, and also decreased triglyceride. Why the decreasing of triglyceride is important in diabetes? Because as we mentioned as it was mentioned in previous slide, that triglyceride, fatty acid, TNF alpha, they contribute to the insulin resistance. So the decreasing triglyceride is very important in the treatment of diabetes mellitus. 1 gram. Again, 1 gram per day of fenugreek seed. This is a raw plant material, decrease blood glucose and triglyceride, and also increase HDL. So the dose for the clinical study range between 1.1 gram to 15 gram daily of the raw plant material. There are several reports regarding the side effect of fenugreek. The most common side effect is gastrointestinal upset, diarrhea, and flatulence. It is normal because traditional medicine in India use fenugreek as stomach problem here. Yeah, laxative and emulsion. So it's normal if the side effect is gastrointestinal upset, including diarrhea and flatulence. And it is recommended to take the fenugreek separately from another agent or another medication, because the effect on the stomach as a cathartic effect, this is not good for the another drug, because another drug need more time to settle in our body to get the action. And this is not recommended to take with another anticoagulating agent, because it will interfere with the effect of anticoagulant agent. And although Indonesia is not a fenugreek producing country, we have here in our Indonesia several products based on seed of fenugreek. For example, here Trigonella fructus, yeah, it contains 75 capsule, is meaning the extract. Yeah, there are many claims, but of course, as a scientist, we should consider that we should not consider of all of this claim, but we rely that the most prominent effect of Trigonella is anti-diabetic. There's some product also use it for yeah, ASI, melancarkan ASI. This one here is traditionally used for producing the breast milk. And also tea called Teh Hulba. Yeah, this also contain fenugreek with many claims, but do not trust all of the claim. But the most important thing for us is to know what is inside of this product and what is the main function. As we see here, it contains seed of fenugreek. Oh, I know. After the lecture, this lecture, you understand that seed of fenugreek contain several active compounds that have anti-diabetic activity. So I would rely on the anti-diabetic activity instead of anti-cancer, anti what else this skin problem and so on. So this is the main effect is for anti-diabetics. For the summary of this lecture, I already mentioned for the treatment of diabetes, there are many plants that have been evaluated in the clinical trial. Here I mark as red. Cinnamon, it has activity by inducing insulin sensitivity, decreasing fasting plasma glucose, and also decreasing postprandial glucose level. Yeah. And the second is bitter melon, Momordica carantia. It increase insulin sensitivity, it decrease fasting plasma glucose, also decrease postprandial glucose. And the third is fenugreek, Trigonella phenocresum, the seed of fenugreek. It increase insulin sensitivity, it decrease fasting plasma glucose, and also decrease LDL and also triglyceride. And the fourth is aloe vera or lidah buaya. It increase insulin sensitivity and decrease fasting plasma glucose. I mark here as green. It's also another potential plant but I recommend, in my opinion, this is more appropriate for anti-cardiovascular diseases. Although it's good, garlic has a good ability to reduce the LDL. Of course, we can combine this plant garlic with, for example, with bitter melon to get better activity by reducing blood glucose level and also reducing cholesterol and also another lipid-related markers such as triglyceride, increasing HDL, and so on. And this is another plant that is also very promising. But the clinical study is not enough yet, so it still need to be further investigated. It is Coquina grandis. Yeah, it's also grows in Indonesia, and it can increase insulin sensitivity and also reduce fasting plasma glucose. That's it. My presentation for the lecture of phytotherapy with the topic of phytotherapy of diabetes mellitus. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, please ask.